Imagine, if you will, a world where your most profound thoughts, your community's histories, and the very laws that govern you cannot be easily written down and shared. Picture a reality where knowledge is like a delicate flame, passed carefully from one hand to another, always at risk of being extinguished by a careless breath or a forgotten word. This is not some distant, primitive past for all of humanity, but a continuous state for a world that never stumbled upon the simple yet revolutionary idea of the printing press. How different our human story would be. No, a saga told in hushed tones, not bold headlines, a narrative whispered rather than proclaimed from every street corner, impacting every facet of human existence profoundly. Johannes Gutenberg's invention in the 15th century was not merely a new machine. It was a key that unlocked human potential on an unprecedented scale, a true game changer for civilization. Suddenly, books, pamphlets, and scientific treatises could be duplicated in their thousands, then millions, spilling out across continents. Ideas, once the exclusive preserve of wealthy monasteries or royal courts, carefully guarded treasures could now travel far and wide, seeping into the minds of ordinary people, sparking curiosity and debate. The printing press became an engine of change, a powerful catalyst, fueling renaissances that redefined art and thought, reformations that reshaped spiritual landscapes, and revolutions that overturned old orders. It allowed for the standardization of languages and the rapid dissemination of new discoveries, fundamentally altering how humans accumulated and shared their collective wisdom. Without this mechanical marvel, the spread of knowledge would revert to a painstakingly slow manual process, a true test of patience and dedication. Scribes, often monks or dedicated scholars living lives of quiet toil, would spend their entire lives hunched over desks, meticulously copying texts word by word, letter by letter, each stroke a testament to their effort. Each copy would be a unique, expensive artifact, a luxury item beyond the reach of most. Information would be hoarded, accessible only to a tiny elite, the clergy, the nobility, perhaps a few wealthy merchants with the means to acquire such treasures. The vast majority of humanity would live in a world of oral tradition, their understanding shaped by local storytellers and priests, with little access to differing viewpoints or knowledge from distant lands. This heavy reliance on manual copying would mean that errors, small mistakes made by tired eyes or trembling hands, could creep in and multiply with each generation of texts, distorting original meanings over time. Furthermore, the sheer scarcity of written materials would place an immense burden on human memory, making it a crucial societal asset. Great epics, complex legal codes, and vital ancestral knowledge would need to be memorized and recited, making societies heavily dependent on individuals with prodigious recall, the living libraries of their community. The loss of such an individual through illness or accident could mean the irretrievable loss of irreplaceable knowledge. The world's intellectual heritage would be incredibly fragile, constantly vulnerable to fire, flood, or simple human forgetfulness. Education, as we understand it today, a system for widespread literacy and learning, available quite easily to many, would be an unimaginable luxury, a distant dream for the masses. Schools, if they existed at all, beyond rudimentary religious instruction designed to instill basic tenets, would cater exclusively to the children of the immensely wealthy, or those destined for highly specialized clerical roles within powerful religious orders. Textbooks, those handy compilations of knowledge, would be non-existent. Learning would primarily be through rote memorization of a teacher's spoken words or by studying a single precious handwritten manuscript shared among many hopeful students. Literacy itself would be a rare and coveted skill, a clear mark of immense privilege and power, rather than a fundamental right or a common tool for everyday life and personal advancement. Religious institutions, already powerful forces in many societies, would wield even more formidable power in a world bereft of the printing press's democratizing influence. Sacred texts, painstakingly copied by hand by devout individuals and interpreted by a select educated few, would be the ultimate source of authority, their profound meanings carefully controlled and disseminated. Challenges to established dogma or passionate calls for reform would struggle to gain traction and momentum, as dissenting ideas could not be easily and rapidly circulated to a wider audience for consideration and debate. Think of Martin Luther and his 95 Theses. Without the printing press to rapidly spread his arguments across Europe like wildfire, the Reformation might have been a localized flicker, easily snuffed out rather than a continental firestorm that reshaped nations. Communication across even moderate distances would remain agonizingly slow and notoriously unreliable, a constant source of frustration and inefficiency. Official decrees from rulers, news of important events like battles or famines, or personal letters conveying joy or sorrow would all depend on messengers traveling by foot, horse, or sailing ship, facing perils at every turn. The concept of news as a daily or even weekly phenomenon, something we take for granted, would be entirely alien to most people. Information would filter through society very slowly, often becoming distorted by rumor and hearsay as it passed from person to person, changing with each retelling. This sluggish pace of communication would make large-scale coordination incredibly difficult, whether for organizing extensive trade networks, governing sprawling empires, or mobilizing military campaigns effectively. Cultural exchange, the very lifeblood of innovation, mutual understanding, and societal growth, would be reduced to a mere trickle compared to the flood unleashed by print. Stories, songs, artistic styles, and philosophical ideas would still travel, of course, but at a snail's pace, carried laboriously by merchants on long trade routes, devout pilgrims on sacred journeys, or wandering scholars seeking knowledge. The vibrant cross-pollination of ideas that spurred so much creativity and progress in our known timeline would be severely hampered, leading to a slower evolution of arts and sciences. Local traditions and customs would remain deeply entrenched for much longer periods, with significantly less exposure to outside influences that might challenge or enrich them. The world would be a beautiful mosaic of more isolated cultures. The scientific revolution, that pivotal era where systematic observation and empirical evidence began to courageously challenge ancient unquestioned authorities, relied heavily on the widespread availability of the printing press. Scientists like Nicholas Copernicus, who re-envisioned the cosmos, Galileo Galilei, who peered through his telescope, and Isaac Newton, who formulated the laws of motion, could publish their groundbreaking findings, meticulously share their data, and collaboratively build upon each other's work across geographical and linguistic barriers. Without print, how would these revolutionary ideas ever spread effectively? A groundbreaking astronomical observation made in Poland might take decades, if it ever arrived at all, to reach an interested scholar in Italy or England. Scientific communities would likely remain small, isolated pockets of inquiry, struggling intensely to verify results or engage in the robust, critical debate that truly fuels discovery and refines understanding. Many crucial technological advancements are born from the fertile marriage of existing, established knowledge and fresh, new insights from curious minds. Engineering manuals detailing construction techniques, comprehensive architectural plans for grand structures, detailed descriptions of new tools or innovative farming techniques, all benefited immensely from being printed and widely distributed, allowing knowledge to accumulate. Imagine the immense difficulty of trying to build a complex machine like a water mill or a mechanical clock, based solely on word-of-mouth instructions passed through many individuals or from a single, hard-to-access, hand-drawn sketch. The iterative process of invention, where one small improvement carefully builds upon another, creating a chain of progress, would be severely stunted and slowed down. Innovations might arise sporadically in one isolated location, but then fail to spread and inspire further development elsewhere. The Industrial Revolution, with its iconic steam engines puffing smoke and its bustling factories transforming landscapes and societies, was itself a product of centuries of accumulating scientific and technical knowledge, much of which was effectively disseminated through the medium of print. The very notion of mass production of goods, a cornerstone of modern economies, is, in a way, a conceptual sibling to the mass production of text that the printing press enabled. Without the widespread availability of detailed engineering knowledge, advanced metallurgical techniques for stronger materials, or even basic literacy for the skilled workers and imaginative inventors who powered this transformation, the leap to industrialization as we know it seems highly improbable, almost a fantasy. Perhaps small-scale, localized industries might develop slowly, but the transformative societal shift would likely remain a distant dream. The very concept of intellectual property, the idea of patents protecting inventions, and the crucial standardization of knowledge would also struggle significantly to emerge and take root in society. How can an inventor effectively claim ownership of an idea if it cannot be easily fixed in a reproducible, verifiable format and widely recognized? How can one ensure that a chemical formula, a unit of measurement, or a technical specification is understood and applied consistently across different regions without standardized printed guides and textbooks? This profound lack of standardization would hinder not only scientific and technological development, but also complicate international trade, the consistent application of law, and even the efficient administration of large, complex states, leading to a patchwork of incompatible systems. In a world that never experienced the transformative power of the printing press, societal structures would likely remain more rigid and staunchly hierarchical for much longer periods of history. Power, often intricately intertwined with privileged access to scarce written knowledge and the ability to interpret it, would be overwhelmingly concentrated in the hands of a select few. Powerful monarchs ruling by divine right, hereditary nobles controlling vast lands, and high-ranking clergy shaping spiritual beliefs. Social mobility, the ability for individuals to improve their station in life, would be severely restricted, as education and the acquisition of specialized knowledge, which are key ladders for advancement in many societies, would be largely unavailable to the common person. The grand narratives that legitimize existing power structures, once laboriously set down in precious, guarded manuscripts, would be far harder to challenge. The inspiring rise of democratic ideals and the often tumultuous success of popular revolutions were frequently and powerfully fueled by the printed word reaching the masses. Small, inexpensive pamphlets like Thomas Paine's Common Sense passionately galvanized the American colonists towards independence, while widely circulated newspapers spread revolutionary fervor and radical ideas across France, igniting change. Without the crucial ability to rapidly disseminate concepts of liberty, equality, individual rights, and popular sovereignty to a broad and increasingly literate public, such transformative movements would face immense, perhaps insurmountable hurdles. Grievances might be shared locally in hushed tones, but a coordinated, widespread challenge to entrenched authority would be far more difficult to organize and sustain without the binding power of shared printed texts. The ongoing process of globalization, which describes the ever-increasing interconnectedness of cultures, economies, and societies worldwide, would be dramatically slowed almost to a crawl in the absence of print. While trade routes would still connect distant lands and explorers would still venture into the unknown, the deep cultural and intellectual exchange that print so effectively facilitated, the sharing of philosophies, scientific breakthroughs, literature, and art on a massive scale would be conspicuously missing. National identities, often forged and solidified through shared printed languages, common literary canons, and widely read historical narratives, might be weaker or take entirely different, more fragmented forms, with strong regional loyalties remaining paramount for much longer. The world would be a collection of more distinct, perhaps more insular cultural spheres. Ultimately, the absence of the printing press would not just mean fewer books on shelves or in libraries, it would mean a profoundly different human story, a divergent path for our species. The pace of societal and technological change, the fundamental nature of authority and governance, the ways in which faiths and philosophies spread and evolved, the very manner in which we humans think, communicate, and remember would be irrevocably altered. Our collective memory as a species would be more fragile and localized, our innovations more isolated and less cumulative, and our understanding of the vast, complex world around us and our place within it would be significantly more limited. It serves as a powerful reminder, that sometimes a seemingly simple invention can redirect the entire course of human civilization.